Pleasant evening and a very warm welcome to the national news broadcast. We are coming to you live from the news studios of Rupavahini. I'm Dilanjali Ananda.
Good evening, I'm Charita Vinupurarachi, and let's move on to the headlines for tonight's news.
Civilians flee to southern Gaza after Israel warning. Sri Lankans in northern Israel have been informed to be vigilant. The president stresses that each individual should have the opportunity to access digitalization. All arrangements hold the scholarship examination. 2 lanes of the southern expressway between Pinnaduwa and Imaduwa are open for vehicular transport. The Met Department forecasts heavy rains in many areas from tomorrow till the 16th of this month. Shamari Atapattu named as the ICC Women's Player of the Month for September.
On to those and other stories in detail now, and starting off with the top story. Civilians are fleeing northern Gaza by car, on the back of trucks and on foot after an Israeli warning that civilians should move south.
People are fleeing to the south of the Gaza Strip after Israel told them to evacuate within 24 hours for their safety and protection. The United Nations and the World Health Organization have both criticized the move, highlighting the potential humanitarian impact. The Israel military said it understood the evacuation would take longer than its time frame. About 1.1 million people living in northern areas have been told to leave in the next day. The UN urged Israel to withdraw its order, warning of devastating humanitarian consequences. Israel has massed soldiers near Gaza ahead of an expected ground offensive into the densely populated enclave. Meanwhile, Hamas urged people to ignore the warning. The Israeli military said it knew it would take longer than that to move everyone, but blamed Hamas for telling people to ignore the call. Foreign media reports that civilians are fleeing in cars, motorcycles and trucks heavily loaded with possessions, some cars with mattresses draped over them. People are traveling with cows, camels, sheep and donkeys. Lots of families on foot. They've already had to walk several kilometers. The Commissioner General of UN's Palestinian Refugee Agency has said that Gaza is fast becoming a hellhole and is on the brink of collapse. The scale and speed of the unfolding humanitarian crisis in Gaza is bone-chilling. The Commissioner General also appealed to all parties involved to give immediate and unconditional humanitarian access and protection to Gaza's civilians and uphold the laws of war. And to bring you more on the Israel-Palestinian conflict, we have on board with us the international news analyst, Mr. Prasad Dodangodage, with us on board. Thank you, sir, for joining us. Now, as we saw, Antony Blinken is shaking hands with the Prime Minister of Israel, Netanyahu, and they're standing in solidarity. But this is coming into war, and amidst where the civilians are still stuck, and they are not provided with the water, the food, or the fuel. So this amounts to war crimes because according to the laws of war, this is not allowed. But in the same context, sir, how are we to expect within 24 hours, 1.1 million should leave the north of Gaza into the south? How is this going to be possible?
Yes, that's, highly unrealistic. Dulanjali, that's what the United Nations repeatedly told Israel, that Israel must withdraw this ultimatum. Because, there are many reasons behind that UN statement. Because now, as we saw in the previous news report, the people of North Gaza and Gaza City, the highly or densely populated areas, 1.1 million people, now they are gradually moving southwards. Some of them have already crossed this the border that Israel, the demarcation border Israel mentioned, the Wadi Gaza. It's a river valley. So the thing is, now they are moving. The people who can move, they are moved by using vehicles, trucks, cars, and donkeys, and even on foot. Yeah, but the World Health Organization mentioned there are a number of serious the patients who are in serious conditions in hospitals of North Gaza and this Gaza city. The problem is, how can the health authorities in Gaza move these people? Thousands of patients who are in serious conditions, especially after this Israel attack. Now, the whole world condemned the Hamas attack. It's pure terrorism. They kill civilians, they kill women and children, and they took hostages, and now these hostages are holding. The ICRC, now short while ago, ICRC issue a new, we can say, a plea from Hamas to release these people. According to various estimates, over 150 people are being held as hostages by Hamas. And now the international community is trying to persuade Hamas to release, at least release the most vulnerable people. I mean, they are holding women and children as well as elders among these hostages. It's purely terrorism. However, Israel cannot justify its move by because Israel's what Israel said, they are responding Hamas. And Israel mentioned that now the Israel troops, they are along the border, as we see in this map. They are along the Gaza border. Any moment they will cross the border and enter the Gaza, as they did in 2014, the last ground offensive against Gaza. But the thing is, the human cost of this war, that's the major concern of the international community as well as the regional powers as well. Now, as you mentioned, United States of America, the Anthony Blinken is in the region. Now, today he met the Jordanian officials, and he was persuading the Jordan and the Egypt and other regional powers to mediate and to avoid a full-scale war in the region. At the same time, United States said it's not going to interfere the Israel movement against Hamas. So that's the stance of the United States of America. Now, the biggest problem is the people are moving southwards, and these areas are also densely populated areas, and according to the United States, the United Nations, these areas, they don't have facilities to accommodate such a large amount of civilians. And how can, at the same time, we should not forget that Israel has imposed a full blockade against Gaza, all areas of Gaza. Now, the full border, land border, is fully sealed. At the same time, they have imposed a very strict blockade from the sea area in along this border. So it's now the Gaza is fully sealed area, and they don't receive humanitarian aid, even medicine, water. Then they don't have electricity, and they don't receive oil or anything like that. So now it's for the whole Gaza city. Now Israel asked the two northern districts people to move southwards. However, in the southwards, the southern areas even, they are under this Israel blockade. So how can these people provided with all these facilities? One comment from the Israel authorities mentioned that these people can even move further southwards, that toward the Sinai desert. However, the Sinai desert is also, we don't see any type of organization by the United Nations or any other agency to facilitate these people. Even then, they have to build huge tent cities, and they have to provide food and water and other essential things. So this, according to United Nations, it's a huge disaster, humanitarian catastrophe. That's what is
what do you think is the intention of Israel is in this context?
Very clear, because Israel want to give a response to Hamas. Now, according to Israel, they are imposing a tactical military plan. They say, according to Israel, now the Israel military explained that they believe the Gaza, the whole Gaza, especially these two areas, North Gaza and Gaza City, are in two layers. They say that the top layer, the surface layer is the civilian layer, and the second layer, underground, is the Hamas layer. So Israel says that the Israel military want to destroy that second layer, the underground layer, or the underground facilities of Hamas. So they say that they want to launch a very severe and rapid military action to destroy these facilities of Hamas. So Israel, according to Israel, they say that even Israel military accept that moving 1.1 million people within just 24 hours is highly unrealistic. However, Israel, according to Israel view, the Hamas should not disturb this movement. So Israel said they want to safeguard the civilians. That's why they ask these civilians to move southwards. But the problem is, the intention is okay, but the problem is what happened to these people? Who's going to help these people? That's the question.
It is yet to be answered, and we are eagerly awaiting what the outcome would be. But yes, simply we have to just patiently be saying a prayer and then waiting for the betterment of the entire population of Palestinians.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Prasad Dangadage, international news analyst, for coming on board and giving us the latest update on the Israel and Palestinian conflict. Thank you.
And moving ahead with more updates, the Sri Lankan ambassador in Israel, Nimal Bandara, says that Sri Lankan migrant workers in the northern Israel have been informed to be vigilant over possible attacks in the area. Making a special statement to the national television, the ambassador said that this announcement was made following some information received about such an attack. Sri Lankan ambassador in Israel, Nimal Bandara, said that the northern Israel is adjacent to Lebanon and Syria. Israel conducted air attacks to some areas in Syria during the past few days. Therefore, there is a possibility of retaliation to Israel from Syria. About 1,000 to 1,100 Sri Lankan migrant workers are serving in the northern Israel. Majority of them are females. In case of an emergency, Israel government has decided to move the Sri Lankan migrant workers to a safe area. There is a very strong army in Israel. They are constantly protecting their boundaries. They are ready to evacuate foreigners in case of emergency situation. The ambassador further said that the Sri Lankan migrant workers have been informed to take refuge in safer places in case of an attack. It is important to be vigilant and take precautions. Meanwhile, the Foreign Employment Bureau says that a sum of $10,000 has been allocated to provide emergency relief for the Sri Lankans living in Israel. Media spokesman of the Bureau, Gambini Senaratyapa, stated that no Sri Lankan in Israel has yet made a request to come back to Sri Lanka. Media spokesman of the Foreign Employment Bureau, Gambini Senaratyapa, said that there is only 2 Sri Lankans missing. Their whereabouts are not yet confirmed. On the other hand, any family members of Sri Lankan migrant workers living in Israel have not yet made request to bring them back to Sri Lanka. If any person makes such a request, the Foreign Ministry, Israel Embassy and Sri Lankan Foreign Employment Bureau work collectively to look into that request.
විදේශ අමාත්‍යාංශයට මේ ත්‍රිත්වයට මැදිහත් වෙලා ඒ අවශ්‍යතාවය සපුරාලීමට හැකියාව තියෙනවා තවදුරටත්.
Meanwhile, a silent protest was held in front of the UN headquarters in Colombo today, demanding the UN to mediate to resolve the conflict between Israel and Palestine. The protest has been jointly organized by the Nava Janata Peramuna and Nava Janata Bhikshu Peramuna. The representatives of Nava Janata Peramuna also handed over a set of demands to the United Nations in this connection. And meanwhile, President Ranil Wickremesinghe says that each individual of the country should have the opportunity to access the digitalization going on the country at present.
The President points out that the country has to provide required digital infrastructure for the digitalization amidst limitations of government resources in the face of economic crises. The President made these remarks participating in the National Information Technology Conference 2023 as the chief guest. The two-day conference was held in Colombo under the title of Towards a Sustainable Digital Society, Digital Economy in 2030. Many local and international experts of the information technology sector were present at this conference. The roadmap and the policy framework in relation with making Sri Lanka a fully digitalized economy by 2030 was presented to the President by State Minister of Technology, Kanaka Hera. The Enhanced Digital Agricultural Transformation Report was presented to the President by Minister of Agriculture, Mahinda Amaravira. Several persons were honoured with awards for their researches and inventions of the information technology sector at this conference.
How we tackle the issue of the human capital formation that we require. How we tackle the issue of the human capital formation that we require. Now you have presented the two reports which are of use to. Certainly we will read and discuss with you before we go ahead with the implementation. One of the other issues like human capital which has been concerning me, the digital infrastructure. How do we provide the digital infrastructure? So we have to do in the background of the present economic crisis where the government's resources are limited. My thinking and the government's thinking is that the private sector, private investment should take over the basic digital infrastructure. The government should step in where it is not feasible for the private sector to come in. So our whole policy on digital infrastructure will have to be driven on this basis, which means that emphasis will have to be on cities and the western province, especially most parts of Gampaha, Colombo and Kalutara districts. Then into the areas where there is populated areas, towns and others where there is access, where it's needed. The second phase will be to move out, by which time certainly the providers would be in a better position to have a longer investment, and the government will also have sufficient resources to go ahead with investments. So whatever we say, we have to provide the digital infrastructure, and we will have to depend on private investments for the first part.
In March 2023, we kicked off DigiCon 2030 with 10 key areas that we wanted to expedite. This was based on 6 thematic areas of DigiCon initiatives to become ground realities. We have more than 70% covered so far. Few of those have been in discussions for years but was not materialized due to numerous reasons. Sri Lanka's Digital Economy 2030 roadmap and framework was presented to Parliament Consultative Committee and open for public opinion. Next step would be to present it to the Cabinet for approval. I am pleased to announce that we will be presenting this strategic document ceremonially to His Excellency the President today. Our digital roadmap and the policy framework which is being developed in collaboration with the industry and with the support of the World Bank is built on 6 thematic pillars. First, infrastructure, connectivity and access. We are committed to enhancing nationwide broadband access, addressing bottlenecks and revitalizing the Gamata Sannivedana project. In line with the pledge made by His Excellency the President during the 2023 budget speech, we have commenced the provision of fiber internet connections to 1,000 schools, and we aim to complete connections to 520 schools by the end of this month.
Agriculture is a priority. The reform process is critical for us. The President himself leads the modernization efforts. He has appointed a committee led by an eminent professor with a team that's already worked out the roadmap. The modernization program will be on a decentralized basis. It will use the agrarian service centers, which will be the focal points. It will bring together the private sector, scientists, the bureaucracy, and most importantly, the farmers. It will be farmer-centric. It will be utilized to give farmers advice, input material, and also training, amongst other things. The plan is to double current productivity and For an example, our paddy productivity is 3.5 metric tons per hectare, and the plan the Agriculture Minister has is to increase it to 7 metric tons per hectare.
And meanwhile, a discussion between President Ranil Wickremesinghe and Government Medical Officers Association was held this evening at the Presidential Secretariat. The Government Medical Officers Association handed over a set of proposals with 8 issues to the President, including the amendments of salaries and allowances of medical officers, brain drain and current health problems. The President stated that they expect to have further talks with the Government Medical Officers after completion of his official visit to China. A group of representatives of the Government Medical Officers Association and some parliamentarians were present at this meeting. Meanwhile, the Government Medical Officers Association also met former President Mahinda Rajapaksa and discussed the problems of the healthcare sector.
Now, Commissioner General of Examinations Amit Jayasundara says that all arrangements have been finalized to hold the Grade 5 scholarship examination on Sunday. At a press briefing held today, he said that 337,956 students sit for the exam this year. There are 2,888 examination centres island-wide and 491 coordinating centres. Sri Lanka Police, 3 armed forces, district and divisional secretariats, disaster management centres and many government institutions extend their fullest support to hold the examination successfully. Commissioner General of Examinations Amit Jayasundara said that the examination has been finalized successfully with the help of the district and divisional secretaries, as there is a disaster situation in some parts of the country. Many areas in the Mathura district have experienced disaster situation during the past few days. Therefore, discussions were held with the relevant stakeholders to hold the exam without any disturbances. Officers of the disaster management centres are ready to face any such situation on the examination day. The Commissioner General of Examinations informs the public that in any case of problems, the hotline 117 is available for solutions. Special arrangements have been made for the students to be taken to the examination centres, especially in the disaster-prone areas.
The International Monetary Fund has assured its continued support to Sri Lanka. State Minister of Finance Shehan Singha in a Twitter message has stated that this matter. The annual summit of the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank is being held in Marseille in Morocco these days. The meeting between the Deputy Managing Director of the International Monetary Fund, Kenji Okamura, and State Minister Shehan Singha was held there yesterday in the sidelines of the summit. The State Minister says that the IMF Deputy Managing Director assured its continuous commitment to support Sri Lanka for its economic stability program and the economic restructuring agenda. Meanwhile, State Minister Ranjit Siyambalapitiya stated that the President had that the new taxes cannot be imposed on the general public in the country. The President had stated that this matter at a discussion held with the heads of income-earning state departments recently with the aim of accelerating the income targets of these institutions. State Minister Ranjit Siyambalapitiya said that the state income should be increased and the targets should be achieved. The President has clearly stated that the taxes cannot be imposed on the general public further. Therefore, under the existing mechanism, the tax collection should be streamlined. The State Minister of Investment Promotion Dilum Amunugama announced the plans to be established a Japan-Sri Lanka free trade zone in the country. He mentioned that the areas of Bingaria and Iranvilla have been selected for this purpose. The ministers made these announcements during a news conference at the Presidential Media Centre held under the theme Collective Path to a Stable Country. State Minister Dilum Amunugama further elaborated on the progress related to the port city, which has been temporarily opened to the public. The port city has been developed under a third-party agreement with $15 billion allocated for this purpose. China Harbour Engineering Company has already completed 80% of the construction work. The legal framework necessary for doing business in the port city has been prepared and several operating regulations are scheduled for the approval by the Parliament. Investments of about $1.6 billion have already arrived, with an additional $1.6 billion investments underway. The government is planning to sell 28 project lands plots to investors, including 74 plots for business purposes and 44 for public use.
And the sixth stage of the national action organized by the National Television and Mortin Company to prevent spread of dengue mosquito breeding was held at the Ananda Vidyalaya in Shillong today.
Dengue වගකීම අපේ
The sixth stage of the national action to prevent spread of dengue mosquito breeding was held in Putlam district successfully today. A seminar was held at the Ananda Vidyalaya in Shillong to educate school children on dengue manners. Over 500 school students in the area were present at this seminar. In addition, a Shramadana campaign was held along the coastal belt of Shillong and several other areas to eliminate mosquito breeding places. The National Television and Mortin Company jointly conducted this program. The seventh stage will be held on the 20th of this month in Kurunagala district.
අපේ අරමුණයි ජාතික රූපවාහිනිය සමග මෝටි ඩෙන්ගු නැති හැටක්.
With that, we go in for a short break. We'll be back with more news from home after the break.
Prima Kutumi, Fantamai.
Welcome back. On More News from Home, President Wickremesinghe convened a meeting with Federation of University Teachers Association members today at the Presidential Secretariat. The primary focus of this meeting was to address the pressing issue of increasing research allowances for university lecturers and seeking exemption from taxation upon earning this allowance. Additionally, key issues concerning the future of Sri Lanka's university student system were discussed. The President also acknowledged the challenging economic conditions faced by the nation and affirmed the government's commitment to promptly address these issues, providing relief to the public. Recognizing that the current allowances were insufficient to support the research efforts of the teaching staff, he stressed the importance of revising these allowances to promote quality research within Sri Lanka's higher education institutions. The President encouraged officials to explore the feasibility of issuing a new circular.
The Road Development Authority has said that the two lanes of the Southern Expressway from Penaduwa to Imaduwa segment have been opened for vehicular transport from 6 p.m. today. The vehicular transport in this segment was temporarily stopped due to an earth slip occurred near the 102nd kilometre milepost. Accordingly, the two lanes of the left side of the Colombo to Hambantota are open for vehicular running both sides at present. The Road Development Authority says that special attention has been focused to the place where earth slip occurred. All security measures have been deployed to prevent any sudden fall of earth mounds. The Met Department says that heavy rains can be experienced again in the nights of coming few days, and the Met Department forecast heavy rains in many areas of the island from tomorrow to the 16th of this month.
And we have more news from home in brief. The 139th birth anniversary of the father of free education, CWW Kannangara, falls today. A ceremony to mark this anniversary was held at the Matugama Auditorium today. It was organized by the CWW Kannangara Commemoration Foundation in Ittapana. Minister Dr. Wijadas Rajapaksa and many others were present at this occasion. 3 classes of grade 5 were closed in the Sirivardhana Vidyalaya in Yatiyantara today as some students were suffering from complexity of eye problem. Public health inspectors of the area came to the school for inspection. Father of chief incumbent of the Sri Sariputta International Buddhist Center, Venerable Nandathera Hendrik Jasingha Walpola, passed away. He was 94 years at the time of death. Buddhist religious observances were held at the Buddhist Center to convey merits.
And the entire world focuses its attention on the importance of eye treatment at the ceremonies held yesterday to mark the World Eye Day 2023. The event was marked this year under the title of Love Your Eyes. The World Eye Day has set aside for the world to focus its fullest attention for the health of eyesight and vision. The title Love Your Eyes been selected this year to stress the need of eye care for each individual. The health authorities request the public to focus special attention on the eyes and get the eyesight checked without delay. The workplaces have been encouraged to test the eyesight of their workers in line with this day. A medical conference and awareness program were held at the National Eye Hospital yesterday to mark this event. Consultant physician Dr. Kapila Bandhu-Tilaka said that there are some patients who do not know that they are suffering from eye failures. Some diabetic patients have glaucoma situations. Workers in factories also face accidents harming the eyesight. Persons over 40 years also vulnerable to eye failures. This is the marked day with the special attention to their vulnerable groups. That's it on local news. Stay tuned with foreign international news coming up next.
Kutumi, Pantamai.
Welcome back on Foreign News. Russian troops have launched a major offensive on the town of Avdiivka in eastern Ukraine.
And the 3 battalions involving some 2,000 troops, dozens of armed vehicles as well as jets have been reportedly involved in what is described as the largest scale attack in this area. The General Staff of Ukraine says that they have managed to refill dozens of attacks in Avdiivka at nearby areas since Tuesday. Avdiivka is described as a gateway to the city of Donetsk, the capital of Ukraine's eastern Donbas region. Although Russia and its proxy forces have occupied Donetsk city since 2014, they have been unable to use its resources as a key military communications hub because it is too close to the front line. By capturing Avdiivka, the occupying force could push the front line away.
Kutumi, Pantamai.
Now, a ceremony to welcome gold medalist of Asian Games Tharushi Karunaratne was held today at her school, Valala A. Ratnayaka Central College.
Special functions have been organized at Manikina and Digina towns to welcome Tharushi Karunaratne. Both Tharushi and her trainer Susanta Fernando were felicitated at the ceremony. Secretary of the Central Province Minister of Education, Mainika Herath, said that Valala A. Ratnayaka Central College will be provided with a fully fledged playground with a 400-meter running track for the well-being of athletes in the college.
Now, the International Cricket Council has named the captain of Sri Lanka women's cricket team, Chamari Athapattu, as the Women Player of the month of September.
This title has been offered to her by considering her skills shown at the England cricket tour that ended recently. During this tour, she scored 114 runs and claimed 5 wickets to be named as the player of the tournament. Chamari Athapattu is at the 3rd place in ICC women's batting rankings. South Africa won the World Cup match against Australia played yesterday by 134 runs. Batting first, South Africa scored 311 runs for 7 wickets in their 50 overs. Quinton de Kock scored 109 runs and Aiden Markham scored 56 runs. In reply, Australia could only score 177 runs. Marnus Lubsky scored 46 runs and Kikizo Rabada claimed 3 wickets. Accordingly, South Africa has won both matches played so far, and Australia will meet Sri Lanka on Monday.
Kutumi, Pantamai.
It was an absolute pleasure to bring the great news of achievement of our female athletes and cricketers. And with that, that's a wrap on today's news. And together with Charita, I'm Delanjali signing off. Good night.
Have a pleasant night.